Look at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I feel. Look at me and tell me what you see. I look at you and tell you what I feel.
Welcome back. Today we have another Patreon requested review, this time from a frequent collaborator with myself, Kiramidhead. You can check out his YouTube channel in the description below. He does a great podcast looking at different movie scripts before they were made into movies. And I'll also link my favourite podcast, where I joined in at looking at the different movie scripts that were floating around for the Freddy vs. Jason movie. Check it out, it was a lot of fun. And Kiramidhead's choice today is Conan the Barbarian, the film that catapulted Schwarzenegger into popular culture. So let's take an analytical look without reducing ourselves to inane Schwarzenegger impressions that people can't seem to resist. Our epic begins with a quote from Friedrich Nietzsche: "That which does not kill us makes us stronger," pretty much unintentionally linking this film with Nazi doctrine and their fondness for Nietzsche from the get-go. So, not the best start. We then get the iconic intro from the late great Mako telling us about Conan.
Between the time when the oceans drank Atlantis and the rise of the sons of Arius, there was an age undreamed of. And unto this, Conan, destined to bear the jeweled crown of Aquilonia upon a troubled brow. It is I, Aku, the shape-shifting master of darkness.
I'm sorry if that was a surprise for some people, but it's how I grew up knowing Mako. I just can't hear that voice without thinking Samurai Jack. In the opening titles, we see a sword being forged, except a weapon cast this way would be a metallurgical disaster, since they're not supposed to be made like that, and it would have been far better to hammer it out of a metal ingot. Even though I agree with the criticism that it's unrealistic, I'm willing to let it go, because in the movie it's stated that Conan's father, or the tribe or whatever, have discovered a mystical method of forging steel. So the choice in depiction was either the film's way, which is, what, that's not how you do it, or the realistic way, which is, well, what's so special about that? They didn't do anything different. Once the sword is constructed, there's another iconic moment of Conan's father telling him of the god Crom, who the riddle of steel was taken from, referring to the secret forging technique they use. And this idea was invented for the film, as it doesn't exist in the original Howard stories. And Conan's father also gives him vital information that the sword is the only thing he can truly trust in life. I really hope he meant any sword, because that particular one, which has had quite a lot of prominence in this opening, will be all but forgotten until the last few minutes of the film, and won't gain much further significance. Conflict soon approaches as a warband riding under the sign of two snakes facing each other appears over the hills, and attacks the village. The frankly perfect bombastic score highlights the unique style this film was going for, because the music complements the battle, punctuating every sword swipe. It's almost operatic in design, eschewing dialogue for feelings and emotions portrayed via the characters' actions and the score. But anyway, Conan's father is killed, leaving him and his mother, who stands protectively with a sword raised. Her husband's sword is given to one of the heads of the warband, disappearing now until the last 20 minutes of the film. The leader is then revealed, although not by name, as James Earl Jones approaches the woman, and without a word just stands and stares. It's quite unsettling. And when Conan's mother lowers her defense, she's swiftly killed. So his father's sword at least gains that significance when it kills his mother. I hope Conan's father meant he can trust any sword, just not that one, cause it's pretty shit so far. I love that introduction to Thulsa Doom, James Earl Jones' character, because it tells us everything we need to know about him, his army, and how he deals with things. It shows he's powerful in the amount of men he has, he's physically powerful due to the use of the sword, and he's also mystically powerful, managing to disarm the woman so easily, and without a single bit of dialogue. But it wasn't needed anyway. The entire scene was a perfect example of storytelling. The children of the village are taken for slaves as they and Conan are tasked with pushing a giant wheel for no obvious reason. But despite its apparent uselessness, we see Conan grow up in both age and musculature over the years of pushing this thing. I really wish the film would explain just what that thing did. Let's follow where the mechanism goes.
I wonder what makes it turn.
Who cares?
Well, that makes perfect sense. Fair enough. Eventually, Conan, who's not exactly the most socially adjusted, is taken to perform in an arena, when he proceeds to get his arse handed to him by the other guy, in an actually brutal scene of Conan learning to fight and defend himself, as he manages to kill his opponent, barely. And the arena duels continue, with Conan becoming more efficient in fighting and winning every one. This is a fantastic way of showing us how Conan gained his fighting skills, because he starts out getting his arse handed to him, but progressing well and winning against the odds. And over time, he gets less beaten, less bloody, and continues to win against various opponents with various weapons, showing Conan's proficiency in many styles. It's kind of like a more brutal and bloody training montage for Conan, which makes sense for the character. However, one thing I think people forget as well is that Conan learns how to read, write, and about military tactics, philosophy, poetry. He's not just a muscled meathead with a sword like he's usually depicted. He's the true essence of a warrior, becoming an expert in all aspects, not just fighting. So, following on from that, he's also thrown naked women, like he's some kind of prize horse. Which is creepy enough, especially when everyone's watching, but, Pornhub hadn't been invented yet. It should be said that Conan does cover the woman up and make her feel comfortable. Before then fucking her. At least he was trying to be civil, I think. And then once again, another incredibly iconic moment happens, as Conan is asked what is best in life.
To crush your enemies, see them driven before you, and to hear the lamentation of their women. That is good.
It's a modified quote of Genghis Khan's, showing how Conan has the makings of becoming just like the Great Khan. Also, the fact that it's the very first thing Conan has said 20 minutes into the film says a lot too. But for a further connection, we've seen Conan's father talk about the importance of steel, and Genghis Khan's first name, Temujin, is frequently translated as finest steel. But after many years of being a slave and gladiator, Conan is set free, as he's chased by dogs, which adds another Genghis Khan similarity, especially with Conan's father being ultimately killed by dogs too, referencing the Khan's fear of dogs. After escaping said dogs by climbing rocks, Conan accidentally falls through into a cave and the inner chamber of a grand tomb, which is where Conan finds his famous sword. And although it's not mentioned in the film, the dead people are of Atlantean origin, including the sword that Conan breaks free, believing the sword is a gift from Crom himself. I love the fact that the sword was coated in something, almost like it was deliberately made to tell twats like me to fuck off. Because I'd be the first to say, hey, why isn't the blade all rusted and shit? Well, there you go. That coating perfectly explains how Conan can find a pristine sword in a tomb. Later, while wandering the wilderness, Conan is greeted by a woman in a hut, but despite accepting her invitation to sit by her fire, that's not a euphemism, he still distrusts her. The woman freaks Conan out a bit with her witchy powers and predicts his future.
From the north, a man of great strength. A conqueror.
I can finally now talk about the issue with Conan's origin, because it's not his at all. And as the witch just mentioned, it is in fact Kull the Conqueror's origin, which is another Robert E. Howard character. And Thulsa Doom is actually a Kull the Conqueror villain. But in this case, it is just in name only, which I'll further explore later. Anyway, the witch prophesies how Conan will crush the snakes of the earth, and that is all he can remember of the men who killed the village.
A symbol. Perhaps on a shield. Two snakes coming together. Facing each other. But they're one.
Oh wait, hang on. I know who he's talking about.
Mumm-ra, the ever-living!
Yeah, okay, Mumsy, calm down. But seriously, this is Mumm-ra's symbol, and this is Thulsa Doom's symbol. Did they both go to the same crap branding firm or something? 'Cause they need their money back. But anyway, Conan needs more information from the witch, and the best way to do that is to fuck her. Apparently. She does indeed tell him where to go next on his quest, but despite helping him, she suddenly attacks Conan, who subsequently throws her into a fire, killing her or just making her piss off. It's not really clear. You know, no matter how you slice it, that's just shit pillow talk. Anyway, Conan finds a man chained to a rock. He's a thief and archer, Subutai, who will become one of Conan's companions. Also, Subutai was Genghis Khan's primary military strategist, so more references there. And a deliberate one, because Subutai isn't a Robert E. Howard creation. They both sit down to eat something, and you'll notice Conan doing a lot of that. They then have a big pissing contest about gods. Basically, my god can beat up your god, with Conan extolling the virtues of Crom. Well, I say virtues, but according to Conan, Crom doesn't give a shit about people, so there's no point in praying to him, which is kind of a unique religious belief. Conan and Subutai reach a city where Conan proceeds to eat some more, before moving on to another city, where they ask about the snake banner. They're told about the cult of Set, and how their towers dominate everywhere. While Conan eats, of course. Let's be honest, there's been just as much eating as there have been fight scenes. Should this film actually be called Conan the Nosher? Subutai, who's a master thief, tells Conan about the riches hidden within the towers of Set, with them both agreeing to steal whatever's inside. And outside the tower, they come across another would-be thief, Valeria, which, interestingly enough, this line,
"You're not a guard."
and this line,
No.
is actually the only dialogue Conan will ever have with Valeria, despite her being his love interest for the film. Which sounds like a negative, yet the film manages to give Conan and Valeria a meaningful and well-developed relationship without Conan ever saying another word to her, which to me is pretty great writing. In the Tower of Set, the three thieves have teamed up and find the snake cult festivities in full swing, with a ritual sacrifice ready to be made to the tower's giant snake that Conan and Subutai have encountered. They manage to steal the big centerpiece gem of the tower, but Conan also finds an amulet with the symbol he's been looking for, taking that as well, and then actually killing the giant snake in a surprisingly stealthy manner, as the members don't even notice until the sacrificial girl finds the dead snake, with all three managing to escape the tower. And later, while celebrating their victory at a local tavern, my point of Valeria's and Conan's dynamic is proved, when he gives her the stone they took from the tower, and the scene is conducted silently, with just facial expressions and actions, leading to the two of them having a sex scene. The whole thing was done very well, from a writing standpoint to a directing one, and yes, even in acting. This shows that Schwarzenegger is not just a yelling moron with a gun. He has got genuine range to his acting. He just did a romance to seduction to sex scene, all done very tastefully and without dialogue. It shows he's a great actor. So, like I said at the start, let's stop reducing him to a stereotype. But eventually, riches and hedonism take their toll on Conan.
Success can test one's mettle as surely as the strongest adversary.
To say the least. But fortunately, that's when Max von Sydow's King Osric appears to give our heroes a quest. He's pleased at how the three caused chaos at the tower and wants them to repeat it, throwing gems at them to rescue his daughter, who has been taken by Thulsa Doom to be part of his snake cult. And now we're in the main meat of the film. I wanted to talk about how Thulsa Doom's association with the snake cult actually makes him more like the character Thoth-amon, who appeared in the first Conan story, Phoenix on the Sword, which was actually a Kull the Conqueror story adapted into a Conan one, but we'll overlook that. The point is, Thulsa Doom is actually more like Thoth-amon, just with a name change. So why didn't they just make him Thoth-amon in the first place? However, Conan, more for his personal vengeance than finding the king's daughter, has chosen to go looking for Thulsa Doom on his own, using the amulet he took to find his way from people on the road, which leads him to encountering the wizard, the man who's been narrating the film, who introduces himself by threatening Conan, but they're soon sitting together around the camp, and yes, Conan is eating once again. And rather contrary to Conan's barbarian status, he rather wisely and cleverly disguises himself as a fellow pilgrim seeking Thulsa Doom's enlightenment. I think Conan's bemusement at all the nutcases around him says it all, really. The cult have ventured into the crowd of pilgrims to hand out fresh robes, and one of them is quite fond of Conan, praising his physique while giving his tits a cheeky squeeze. Conan does the most logical thing, taking him somewhere private to beat the shit out of him and nick his clothes, using the amulet to convince anyone he's a genuine priest, managing to get all the way to the temple at the top of the mountain, bluffing all the way. However, flashing an amulet that was widely known to have been stolen recently might not have been the best idea, as the guards are informed of Conan's presence, who's captured just as Thulsa Doom addresses the crowd, with the guards dragging Conan away for a bit of light torture. Doom asks him for the gem he stole from the tower, but Conan is still focused on revenge.
You killed my mother. You killed my father. You killed my people. You took my father's sword.
It must have been when I was younger.
Genuinely, his response might as well be just as aloof as this.
For you, the day bison graced your village was the most important day of your life. But for me, it was Tuesday.
He actually is that much of a mustache-twirling bad guy here. Oh, Doom also further ridicules the glorification of Conan's father's sword by saying that steel is no match to flesh, and to prove his point, somehow does this. I have to wonder just how many times he's done that to prove his power, cause the cleanup alone on a stunt like that, it's just not worth the fucking hassle. Doom then sentences Conan to the Tree of Woe.
Crucify him.
Now yes, please pardon me for being pedantic here, but I always had a problem with Doom's use of crucifixion. It's a form of capital punishment that originated in the Greek and Macedonian area of the world. So with Doom's affiliation with the Egyptian god Set, and his connection to the character Thoth-amon, which is a reference to two other Egyptian gods, Thoth and Amon, which is not the best name there, Howard. But why doesn't he just use an Egyptian method of capital punishment and torture? You know, something related to his history and affiliations, instead of just bizarre, out-of-place Christ imagery. Actually, come to think of it, that might mean Conan receiving the Hom-Dai, and an invincible, all-powerful mummy Conan coming back for revenge is the last thing Thulsa Doom needs. So Conan is left to die on the Tree of Woe, which could take a while, since he's managed to eat something. Eventually, though, he looks to be on his last legs, but suddenly Subutai appears over the hill to rescue him. And for some reason, the film makes it seem like Conan was hallucinating, but yeah, he wasn't. So, kind of odd, really. Subutai brings Conan back to Valyria and the wizard, near dead at this point, and the wizard performs a ritual painting on Conan's body. When the night comes, Valyria and Subutai will need to keep the spirits from taking Conan in order to resurrect him. And the spirits begin their attempt to take Conan, with the wizard clearing off pretty sharpish. Conan is fortunately tied to the ground, but Valyria and Subutai still need to fight off the spirits themselves. And can I just say just how much I like this scene? Because it shows that Conan's allies are just as capable as he is, but in different ways. And it shows that magic in this world is no easy feat, and is something that needs to be fought for, cementing Conan's allies' loyalty to him. The effects for the ghosts might not be the best by today's standards, but they do look appropriately creepy and ethereal looking. I kinda like it. But anyway, after a long fought battle, the spirits eventually give up and float away, leading to Conan being revived stronger than ever, which is emphasised by Conan swinging around the Atlantean sword. Fun fact, but the Atlantean sword Conan uses and his father's sword was so heavy and off balance that they had to be substituted for light aluminium ones during fight scenes. And it's this over-engineering of movie weapons I wanted to talk about, because you see it all the time with swords. Now, it might make them seem a little simple looking, but for me personally, an elegantly crafted, balanced, and well-designed sword is always more visually appealing than a sword with an ornately crafted handle that weighs 10 pounds and then the blade snaps as soon as you look at it. That night, the group plan the rescue of the king's daughter, and while Conan rubs a big rock on his sword, hey, it's a hobby, they decide it would be better to rescue the girl and kill Thulsa Doom another day. Conan doesn't say much about it, so they agree to the plan, for now, camouflaging themselves as they watch what is seemingly Thulsa Doom's kitchen at work, filling a big cauldron of unidentifiable, I'm going to say soup, for the big old orgy taking place. The cauldron is delivered to the orgy, because, you gotta keep your strength up for that kind of thing, and they find the princess keeping Thulsa Doom company, who then decides to transform into a snake. I should say that although not a trait of Thulsa Doom or thoth-amon, the snake transformation is more than likely a nod to the serpent men, humanoid snake-like creatures who feature prominently in both Kull and Conan's stories. However, concerning Thulsa's choice to transform into a snake, he hasn't done it before, won't do it again, and does fuck all while as a snake. So what was the point exactly? The group spread out around the chamber, readying weapons and setting candles to start fires as distractions, until they make their move, systematically killing the guards. And everyone in the group shows they're just as good as the other. Well, except for Conan, whose sword is so powerful it makes this guy's stomach burst just by being near it. Thulsa Doom has slithered away while Valeria rescues the princess, and after dumping the soup everywhere, Conan faces off with the 2 lieutenants of Doom, leading to a pretty decent fight that's cut short when a pillar is knocked down, allowing Conan to fight another day. Outside, the group ride off in victory, but Doom has other ideas, using a snake as an arrow, firing it at the group, managing to hit Valeria. Hey, he's a pretty good shot. Maybe next time, instead of using a snake as an arrow, perhaps using an arrow. They don't need to be trained to remain straight, and they can be coated in a variety of snake poisons. All I'm saying is, I get Thulsa Doom's association with snakes. He doesn't have to use them for everything. The group get enough distance from the stronghold to take a break, finding Valeria is pretty much dead, dying in Conan's arms shortly after, adding another thing to his long list of reasons to get revenge. Conan gives Valeria a funeral pyre, and there's actually an interesting piece of characterization here from Subutai and Conan, as the wizard asks him why he's crying.
He is Conan, Pthumerian. He won't cry. So I cry for him.
It continues the deep respect and loyalty Conan has from his allies, and it shows how caring Subutai is too. However, what annoyed Conan purists is that although Valeria is mentioned in one of the stories, she was never Conan's grand love of his life. That went to the pirate queen Belit. So it is kind of weird why they didn't use that character, but according to the director John Milius, he wanted a more Valkyrie-like character, and Valeria fit the bill better. However, she still has some aspects of Belit's character in her character as well. In the morning, the king's daughter, who's still full-on Stockholm Syndrome, tells Conan that Doom will come looking for her and kill him. Because of the pyre, he'll know where they are. So, true to Conan's form, he goes into full bring-it-on bitches mode, setting up traps and securing weapons in places around the graveyard, showing his skill as a master strategist. Also, Conan and Subutai have a nice moment together, with Conan remembering the spring breeze he experienced while with his father, lamenting the years without him. Again, showing Schwarzenegger's superb acting in this emotional moment. Before the battle begins, and despite knowing that it's pointless, Conan prays to Crom. But he does make a good case for why Crom should pay attention, asking to be granted revenge. However, I think I now know why Conan believes Crom doesn't listen to people's prayers. He's talking in the wrong bloody direction. Look!
Crom, I've never prayed to you before. I have no tongue for it.
Why is Conan praying to the sky when it's been mentioned several times by Conan and others that Crom lives in the ground? It's not that he doesn't listen, it's that he can't bloody hear you. The battle begins, vaguely reminiscent of when Doom's troops attacked Conan's village, but Conan is either incredibly good, or the troops have become very shit in the intervening years, as it's no contest. Also, it's not a coincidence that both Conan and Subutai are dressed like Genghis Khan and his army. The main lieutenant has a one-on-one with Conan, and unlike the rest of the army, does pretty well against him, until Conan takes out his horse. Yeah, you know that little disclaimer you get at the end of movies? No animals were harmed in the making of this film? Yeah, you're not going to get one of those on this one. Also, there's a weird scene where Subutai is attacked by a spearman on horseback. He dives for cover, but it does look like the spearman shoves it right up his arse, without any reaction from Subutai. And then the wizard shows up to comically take out the spearman, falling over and not being able to get up. Now, either that was an editing problem, an actor problem, a direction problem, or some combination of all three, because that really didn't look right. Conan is then able to trick arguably the stupidest of Doom's lieutenants as he spots Conan's helmet, but hitting it releases the spike trap, killing him in a pretty spectacular and gory fashion. And come to think of it, that trap succeeds in doing what Schwarzenegger will fail to do years later against the Predator in that film. And now comes the second part of Conan's revenge as he faces against Doom's second lieutenant, who seems to be winning, but Conan suddenly gets a helping hand from an unexpected source.
Do you want to live forever?
No, Valeria didn't become the first human disco ball hybrid. That was her returning as a Valkyrie in order to help Conan. She could have helped kill the guy as well, but never mind. Also, it's implied that Crom is indeed listening, so I guess the Sky Gods passed on the message. But oh no, there's still a problem, as the lieutenant is using Conan's father's sword. And as you'll remember, he was an amazing blacksmith who made swords of unparalleled quality and strength, especially that one, considering it was featured so prominently at the beginning. So this is not going to be an easy win for Conan. His father's really not getting much respect here. Anyway, Conan manages to dispatch Doom's man in a very satisfying and gory manner. Doom, who has witnessed the battle take place, uses another of his stupid snake arrows to kill the king's daughter, but luckily Subotai manages to stop it. Again, you know, next time a steel arrow would probably be better suited. We then shift rather abruptly back to Doom's temple as he's addressing all his followers, persuading them all to burn themselves, going to go out the way most cults do, mass suicide. But luckily, Conan has showed up to exact his final revenge. Doom is quite the cheeky bastard here, trying the same trick performed on Conan's mother with the hypnosis crap. Conan doesn't fall for it though. And his father gets at least some respect, as Doom is decapitated by his sword. No respect, I tells you. No respect. And the film ends pretty much there, with all the cultists throwing their torches into the temple's water feature and going their separate ways. And after Conan displays his shot put technique, managing to somehow set fire to stone, he does the same. So yeah, I guess the whole plot with the king doesn't need to get resolved, or we don't need to find out if the wizard and Subotai are okay. But the film's called Conan the Barbarian, so I guess that's its main concern. Oh, and there is an epilogue, basically sequel bait for future Conan films, and it should be said that there still is a third Conan film, The Legend of Conan, on the books to be made, with Schwarzenegger returning. Conan the Barbarian is actually a perfect example of filmmaking you don't really see anymore. It's real rough and ready, nothing computer generated. Shoddy effects, yes, but they work, with grand and elaborate sets. It's something really special on a filmmaking level. But it's actually something special in other respects too. The characters are real, fleshed out people with their own personalities and quirks. They're truly believable. Conan isn't just a meathead with a sword, Subotai isn't just the sidekick, and Valeria isn't just a generic love interest, and also a very strong female character. The acting from everyone is superb, except maybe for Subotai, but that's not the actor's fault, all his lines were dubbed over, so it doesn't quite work sometimes. This film is a true fantasy epic that's maybe simple in plot, but it's the fleshed out details, characters, and that no one is just phoning it in or hamming it up to get through it is what makes it the real classic it deserves to be. And once again, this review was brought to you by Patreon, and thank you to Kiramidhead for requesting it. If you would like to check out his YouTube channel, the link is in the description. And if you would also like to donate to this show, help keep it running, the link to the Patreon page is also in the description. But it's been a long time coming, so for the next video, I'm going to be doing my own remake, in the City of Angels. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.